Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Accelerate IT Transformation with Multi-Cloud session. First of all, I want to say thank you to Telecommunications Regulatory Authority for providing this platform and to host this session. It's a great honor. And so to quickly start off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Umair Riaz, and I am a Principal Systems Engineer at Dell EMC. And I am I would say a cloud specialist at Dell Technologies. And a quick background about myself, I'm a subject matter expert focusing on anything related to cloud computing for Dell EMC. And I cover Africa, Middle East region. So in one form or the other, I am engaged with any customer who is accelerating their journey to hybrid cloud model. I specialize in DevOps methodology as well. I have a strong software development background, and I am very much active on GitHub with various projects where I'm contributing. I do hold a computer science degree from University of Delaware, which is based out of US. So today, we're going to be tackling a point of cloud and cloud computing. So throughout the presentation, we're going to tackle three main points: what, why, and how. So what is cloud? Why do we need cloud? And most important is how do we actually end up implementing cloud in our own organizations. So just so that we set the stage for everyone for throughout the presentation, we're all on the same level. It is important that we have a common understanding of the definition of cloud, right? In no means I want to insult anyone, but I just want to make sure that we have a basic understanding. So there's many definitions out there in terms of what cloud computing is. The most common definition that's being used is the one that has been described by NIST, National Institute of Standard Technology. So this is an organization who provides standards across technology, right? So they define cloud computing as a delivery of computing services, including server, storage, database, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence that's delivered over the internet, intranet, right? And that means that in order to be able to enable cloud model for any of the service, it has to meet five characteristics. One is that the service has to be delivered using some aspect of self-service capability. Second is that it needs to be accessed using broad and network access. That means that it's the network access that is available to everyone, right? So that means we're not using a proprietary protocol technology that is only applicable to, let's say, one specific vendor, right? So that means a service that can be delivered to wider audience. And second and third of all is that ability to run that service on a model of resource pooling, right? So therefore we can run this service on a shared resources, and then of course make that app service to be elastic, so we can start small and then grow as the business and individual demand requires. And last of all is the measured service associated with that, right? So once the service is delivered using self-service, it is accessible using broad network access, it is elastic, then there should be some sort of measurement of the consumption of the service, right? Either you pay with your credit card, either you're using it for free, but that is in a nutshell the five characteristics, right? And cloud basically delivers, it is known as a platform, and it delivers applications and infrastructure. These are the primary, I would say, use cases that a lot of the organizations are using cloud computing for, right? And then of course giving the access to any of the device that access this cloud model. So again, just to set the stage that this is the cloud definition 101, that it needs to be self-service, broad network access, it needs to be running on resource pool type technology, it needs to be rapid, elastic, so therefore we should be able to scale and we should be able to measure. And then looking at from a 30,000 feet view of that exact definition, just to quickly summarize, it is a platform to host and deliver services using self-service capabilities. And those services are consumed by three different audiences, right? There are the world of consumers who use cloud services, the business who consume cloud services, and then there's the technology owners, right? the people who work in the world of technology, they are also the cloud users as well. So we have three different uh, and customers who have three different profiles who consume this. So if we look at cloud computing models in more in depth, cloud computing model has two things, right? One is the deployment model, and second is the services model. So first we look at the deployment model. So when we look at cloud computing, people look at, well, what type of cloud we're going to have, or where do we going to consume the service? Are we going to run a private cloud? Are we going to go to public cloud that's accessible to everyone, that is known as hyperscalers, the world of Microsoft Azure, Amazon, AWS, Rackspace, Google GCP? And then, of course, some customers were saying we want to have mix of both. We want to have a private cloud and we want to consume services in public cloud. That is known as a hybrid cloud model, right? So these are the three deployment model where when customer decides to consume a service, they decide where they're gonna go to run that service. And then there is the services model. So when we do decide which cloud model we're gonna go, then they consume these three type of services. One is known as infrastructure as a service, that is primarily focused around technology. And second is a platform as a service, primarily focused around developers who are developing applications and they need a platform to develop those applications and build next generation cloud enabled application. And third of all is software as a service. Software as a service is primarily focused around consumers and business, right? Because those applications are already ready, they're just ready to be consumed. So if we look at these three cloud models, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service in more details, this is I would say a quick comparison between them, right? So if we look at our traditional model of on-premise, so that means that in on-premise traditional model, that means every time a customer wants to run an application, they have to manage their own networking, their own storage, their own server virtualization, every layer on top. That means that the owner of that application has flexibility and has dictation of what is that application required, and entire environment across this vertical is customized for that application. Infrastructure as a service basically means that the cloud provider will manage these orange layers for you. They will manage networking, storage, and servers, and virtualization for the end customer. And these services are delivered in a fully automated and orchestrated manner. An end user only can manage their operating system and above. So that means that you will get a virtual machine or a virtual operating system, and you can change your wallpaper, you can set your screensaver, you can download your own application, install your middleware runtime, bring your own data, and deploy your own application. So that means from this level above, the user owns it, and anything below this, the cloud platform will manage that environment for you. The third layer is platform as a service. What that means that when developer are developing applications, they're not so tech savvy when it comes to networking, storage, virtualization. They just care about developing the application and managing that data that application uses. So therefore, that in a platform as a service, all these layers are automated and managed by the cloud platform. So where developer does not need to know how to deploy runtime or manage middleware or configure operating system. All of that is abstracted and hidden from the developer. Software as a service basically means that everything here is managed by cloud platform. That you do not configure your own application, you do not configure your own data or any layer in below. So that means as the end user, you only consume the software. You only consume the end product of that application. So just to quickly summarize, what is that software as a service? Example of that is these big vendors, right? So software as a service is primarily consumed by consumers and business owners, because business owners are saying, I don't have the skills and I don't want to manage my technology myself. So I'm just going to go to a cloud provider and subscribe to a SaaS model, right? So example could be Gmail, like for example, right? Gmail is a SaaS model of email. So, and if we apply the cloud characteristics on Gmail, so that means you log into gmail.com, self-service, you create an account that's known as self-service. You can access that Gmail account using your mobile device, your laptop, anything like that. You can start off with a free a plan, where they give you certain amount of capacity, and then if you need more, you can pay more to get more capacity for your email. So it's elastic as well, right? And then of course, Google is measuring what you're using. So in this case, they're giving you for free, but if you use more, they'll charge you, right? That's a idea. So when a vendor develop a application that they want to be cloud enabled, they have to apply those five characteristics we talked about earlier. And then there's thousands of other applications that, and I'm not thousand, probably million, right? Over a million applications that exist in today's market that businesses and consumers go and subscribe and just and start consuming right away without any technical knowledge of their applications and their technology, right? So example, of course, for end user, it can also be games, right? So we know that if you're an active user of Apple iCloud, you're an active user of Google Apple Google Play, so you can just go and subscribe to game or software, and you just download the software and you start using it right away. But the organization that built that software, the game or any application, they built it on a cloud model that they can host on this cloud platform known as iCloud, and they're delivering it for you, right? So that is known as software as a service. So why people in the world of technology or in business want to go to cloud model, why they think it's important. One is that it allows them to develop applications faster, right? So today we're all becoming digital organizations, and our application and our software is the way we are differentiating ourselves as a business, right? So they want to be ahead of the market, they want to be ahead of the competition, so they want to have a developer speed. So they want to introduce functionality, accelerate go to market. Second is dynamic scale. So they can go to a cloud model, they can start off their application or service, and they can scale based on the business demand. So they're not tied to the traditional IT processes of procurement and static deployments, right? And third of all, which is very important, is on-demand services. The services are available at a given time whenever the business requires it, right? And this gives end users and organizations flexibility to deploy their application closer to their customers in terms of global deployments. They can deploy it in Dubai, they can deploy those applications as they scale globally into their market, right? And then it allows them to be rapidly iterate. So that means that those applications are available. So if we look at the big players in the market who have successfully been delivering cloud model, these are the three big players that everyone knows, right? Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud known as GCP, and VMware, right? And there's many, don't get me wrong, there are many other players in the market who have been successfully delivering cloud services to end customers. And the reason organizations are now going toward cloud adoption model is because they're accelerating their journey to digital transformation. Organizations are seeing that they need to transform into become more digital focused business, right? And digital transformation consists of four additional transformations. So in order for an organization to be digital transformed, they need to have application transformation. That means they need to think about a new way of build modernizing those applications that exist in their organizations. Second is that they need to do IT transformation. That means delivering infrastructure faster to the developer and to to the IT organization, and transform workforce as well. That means ability to provide the right application to the right end customer on the right device, right? And then most important of all, securing the end-to-end delivery model of this cloud platform. So digital transformation consists of application, IT, workforce, and security transformation. And when we look at customers who want to do digital transformation, they need that dynamic change. They need to have dynamic scalability. They need to have on-demand consumption model, and it is cloud that allows them to do that, right? So today, of course, sake of time, we're going to focus on IT transformation specifically because, of course, each topic has its very in-depth discussion. So today we're going to primarily focus on IT transformation and why organizations are focusing around IT transformation as the first starting point to create a wave to move toward digital transformation. So if we look at IT transformation, if we look at the trend from past few decades, IT has been growing, right? In terms of amount of investment IT was delivering and consuming to deliver, the SLAs to the business, and we're at a point where the investment has stopped. We're not getting enough funding from business to accelerate and become more efficient. So organizations are saying, in order for me to move toward digital transformation, I need to focus on my applications. I need to be delivering next wave of my cloud model of delivering modern application, which is known as cloud native applications. So what organizations are doing is that they're now streamlining IT operations. They're streamlining IT so they can deliver IT services, optimize cost here, so then they can invest in application transformation, because application transformation is highly dependent on IT transformation. Because if you do not have the right service delivery model on an area, you cannot deliver application faster to developers. And of course, IT transformation consists of modernizing the data center. So that means we standardize on our infrastructure. We move our workload to virtualize as much as possible. So I give you example. In 2009, we started deploying more virtual machines in data center than physical servers. So about 11 years ago, industry reached the tipping point where virtualized became mainstream, right? And then at the same time, now what we're seeing the latest trend, some of those workloads which were running in virtualized environment, those workloads are now slowly being containerized because it provides more cost optimization, right? So that means one of the first wave of IT transformation is to build a modernized data center. That means we're moving away from traditional one-to-one relationship of application to a server. We're moving to more consolidated, virtualized based manner. Second is that we want to deliver those services using automation and standardize on IT services, right? So therefore, that we as an IT organization deliver those services in a standardized way, right? So that means there is a T based on T-shirt sizes, and we build our own service catalog that is specific to our organization. And last not least, but and the most important is transforming the operations team, right? You can have the greatest blinking lights in your data center, but if the operations team is not ready to manage those new change, the cloud project ends up failing, right? So we need to ensure that those operations team have a continuous enablement plan of their education and training so they can operate and manage this cloud model. So why do we end up doing cloud? One is that a cloud allows us to be more people centric. It allows us to automate technology so that helps us be more streamlined in our operations, and it provides us transparency of technology to the business owners, right? So that means that we can deliver applications or services using self-service. It's fully based on agile model. It's fully flexible based on business and organization demand. We're able to integrate our cloud into an API driven infrastructure so we can deploy end to end life cycle of the service. And it's running on a resilient infrastructure to deliver higher SLA. And most important is to measure the cost of running those services on modern data center so that technology owners and IT teams can justify the cost of running services that belongs to other businesses and other business users. So this is one of the reason or few of the reasons where organizations are moving to a cloud model, because they want to be able to deliver services faster to the end users. They want to automate technology so their operations are streamlined and everything is life cycle. And most importantly, that they want to be able to measure the cost of running those services. So once our customers decide to run that cloud, then what goes on cloud, right? That's important. So if we look at what runs on cloud, there's two types of workload that ends up running in cloud from an application point of view, right? Yes, there's the world of AI and machine learning and all of that great stuff, right? But let's focus on the average use of cloud consumption today. So in cloud today, we run traditional applications. This is the applications we in IT have built our IT career on. These applications run on a operating system that is Windows or Linux, right? So these applications themselves do not know how to protect themselves. They do not know how to replicate itself, how to be more available, right? So then this is why these applications run on a operating system. And then we partner with technology vendors like Dell EMC and many others to provide better availability for these applications. Then there are applications which are known as cloud native. These are the applications which are designed to run in cloud. They're designed to fail, and they're designed to be available built into the software, right? So these are two types of application that runs on it. So if we look at it more carefully, uh, when we deploy applications in a virtual machine, and that virtual machine needs backup, DR, it needs everything as an encapsulated environment to be run, and it requires a specific infrastructure to run. That is known as infrastructure as a service. So just to set the stage, when we deploy virtual machines in cloud, that is known as infrastructure as a service, because these VMs has applications running, then these VMs also needs backup, which is known as infrastructure. These applications need DR. So then we start applying those attributes alongside infrastructure. Then there are applications which are being developed from scratch. They're becoming cloudified, right? And those applications run on a new type of environment or new type of infrastructure called containers, right? And that is known as platform as a service. Any application that is moving away from virtual machine into container, and the platform that delivers those containers is known as platform as a service. And there's multiple ways of you and our developers to build those modern application. If they want to build their own containers, they want to push code, and those code creates the containers for them, or they want to do function as a service, right? Which is known as serverless function as a service. So all these three flavors of people who are developing applications, a modern application, they are highly dependent on container technology that is known as platform as a service. So then our customers are saying, great, I like this cloud model. I like how in a public cloud I can go into a self-service portal. I can consume my service and everything as a developer, and infrastructure and application services are delivered to me in a fully automated fashion. However, I am a government entity. I am a financial organization. I do not feel comfortable moving my workload to a data center in UK or data center in New York or any cloud provider that is running other people's services because of security and governance regulation. So our customers are saying we want to also transform into a cloud model, but we want to run those workloads in our own data center and deliver in the same cloud-like functionality. And this is where our customers are building a private cloud that is fully controlled by their IT operations. It is fully secure because it's running behind their data center perimeter firewall, and it is running on premise, right? And they're still able to deliver same and better services in terms of infrastructure services, application services, and developer services to their customers. So then the dilemma comes up is, all right, so our customer is going to build a private cloud, and they really like public cloud as well because they want to consume some services in public cloud. And then decision criteria comes up is, well, what goes on public cloud and what workload can stay on my own data center? What workload is most suitable in my own organization? So this is again looking at from a 30,000 feet view. This topic itself can be go on for hours, but to quickly summarize in one slide, the idea is this: if your workload is going to live for short amount of time, and the application and the workload will have frequent changes, like a lot of changes all the time, it needs to constantly scale up, constantly scale down. It needs to have more resources added and removed. It makes sense to run those workloads in public cloud. So workload that has short lifespan but have dynamic changes, you run it in public cloud. If workload has not so much, it has some changes over the time, but it's going to be running in the environment for long time, then it is recommended to run in private cloud. One is the TCO justification of it, and because the workload is static. So therefore, you deploy it, and let's be honest, in IT, our workloads are not dynamic, right? We deploy Microsoft server one time and it just runs for years and years, right? Yes, once in a while we add more CPU, we do upgrade, right? But it's not frequently like every day or every week. So those kind of workloads are recommended to run in private cloud. And then we're saying to customers, look, if you do need workload to have dynamic change in terms of uh, running all the time in on premise, but have the flexibility to move workload to public cloud, then we recommend our customers, hey, it makes sense to have a hybrid cloud model in your own organization, right? So what does that mean? And how do our customers start? To start building a private cloud on customers' own premise in their own organization, the starting point of is that you start with building a software-defined data center. So what is software-defined data center? Software-defined data center is the vision of IT infrastructure that extends virtualization concept such as abstraction, pooling, automation, to all the data center resources and services to achieve IT as a service. So that means we take servers, we take our storage, we take our networking and our data protection that we have in our own data center, and then we pool these resources and in terms using some concept of pooling, either it's a virtualization technology or software that's built into the different elements of the data center, and then we abstract the intelligence, right? So about 20 years ago we did this with server virtualization. We introduced hypervisor and we removed our dependencies of running one application on one physical server, right? So that is software defined compute. And industry is now building a standardized way of deploying software as a service and software defined storage. And of course, software defined networking, where they're taking the attributes of physical networking and they're moving it to software. So we're no longer dependent on the physical networking attributes and the data protection, right? So therefore, we'll be able to deliver more granular data protection to the services we deliver. And then, of course, the industry says, great, great, we have these elements in the data center, but these are still silos. How can I expedite my software defined data center story, right? Or my journey? How do I become more modernized in a faster manner? The industry now is slowly moving toward hyper converged. So, hyper converged is where we take the software defined storage and software defined compute and we run it all together in a single appliance, right? And that is industry standard way of now deploying modern data center. So that means that we can start off something small, right, as minimum example 3, and then we can scale as the business and the organization demand increases, right? And that's known as software defined data center. Once we have, as the organization, have built software defined data center, then the idea is we need to have another layer on top that will enable cloud computing. On the bottom is just software defined data center, right? So then on the top we will have a automation and orchestration engine, and that automation orchestration engine will then automate the compute, the storage, the network, and the data protection, because now is all of that is running in software and we're no longer have to be dependent on a technology or vendor specific integrations, right? Because we moved to a software defined data center, it makes cloud computing to easily automate compute, storage, network, and data protection. Once we have automation orchestration, then we need to have cloud operation management. We need to understand and have visibility across what is happening in this world. We need to make sure that the services which are being deployed here are measured and monitored and meeting the business SLAs, right? And same time measuring the cost associated of running that service with CPU, disk, networking, and data protection, right? So that we should have be able to. And then most important is having a service catalog that allows end user to come in and then provision workload on from this interface that gets delivered fully automatically onto the software-defined data center. So once we have software-defined data center running, then of course our customer can be, can scale that into their enterprise-grade deployments where they can have their own data center on site in Dubai. They can have another data center in Abu Dhabi and whatnot, and then they can have availability across data centers, and they have a common interface to manage and deliver those services that which are running across multiple data centers. And this cloud computing software is known as cloud management platform. So this is the cloud software, the brains that basically manages and creates cloud services for our customers, right? So and the customer keeps asking us, Sumer, well, what is the private cloud architecture? One is that you need to have a modern infrastructure. The modern infrastructure should consist of server, storage, networking, and security, right? And again, like we mentioned, the fastest way of doing that is hyperconverged. Once you have the modern infrastructure, then you need to have software defined data center on top that is delivering software defined storage based on policies, software defined networking, software defined security, and availability. That is all software defined infrastructure, right? So this allows us to abstract and not be dependent on the physical vendors. And once we abstract the intelligence of all of this physical networking into the software stack, then we can have a cloud automation software on top that is known as cloud management platform that allows us to create service catalog, allows us to create policies, allows us to deploy application, have an approval process, do capacity planning, performance management, right? Ability to measure and monitor the utilization of our resources, have integrated change management, and even do configuration management. These are all the requirements when we start thinking about cloud because people want to automate and streamline their IT operations. And then, of course, we want to have security or at all layers. We want to have security at the infrastructure layer, security at the software defined data center layer, and security at the cloud operations layer in terms of who is accessing it, rights management, identity management, and able to ensure that we have log analysis to monitor exactly what's happening in the entire platform. Once we have the foundation of cloud deployed, then on top of the cloud foundation, then we'll be able to deliver cloud services, right? That means we deliver infrastructure as a service where we provision VMs, and then with that VMs, we can automate data protection, we can automate disaster recovery, we can automate continuous availability, deploy application, encrypt users' data, and enable network services. That is all known as infrastructure services, right? So this is what's known as enterprise grade cloud deploy cloud use case. And furthermore, then our customers will have a requirement for developing modern application. Then that cloud use case, once we have the foundation deployed, then we can enable various cloud use cases based on organization needs, right? So we could have develop a platform as a service and container as a service for developers who are developing applications. And we can then customize use cases based on business demand, right? And then, of course, a lot of our customers over the years have been investing and with other enterprise vendors, and then we can integrate with an industry leader technologies to deliver those services as part of our cloud service, right? That is known as a cloud private cloud architecture. This is the base foundation that almost every single vendor who delivers private cloud is providing. And then all of this is delivered as per services and based on customized as per organization needs, right? So customer A will have A, B, C, D. Customer B will have A, C, D, right? Think of that way, right? So the service catalog is customized as per organization needs. So if we look at the infrastructure as a service specifically, so that when we deliver our private cloud, we move from a traditional one-to-one where everything is manually managed to infrastructure as a service where the cloud will manage and automate all the way from here to the bottom. So all of this is abstracted to the end user, and then end user only manages his middleware runtime data services and applications, right? This is known as infrastructure as a service. And then, of course, all of these automations are standardized So therefore, every time we deliver a service to the end customer, our IT processes are automating all of this in a standardized manner. And then this allows us to streamline our IT operation, help reduce cost, right? Deliver services which are through a service catalog, and everything is fully automated. And this is one of the reason, or a few of the reasons where organizations are moving toward a private cloud model. So just quickly, I want to give you guys a quick walkthrough. What does that look like, right? So here's example of a cloud solution powered by VMware, and of course, it can be any cloud provider. It can be, Red Hat. It can be IBM, HP, whoever have a cloud solution. This is the cloud solution running on premise. So this allows end user to log in. They choose the service, and in this case, we have three services, and organizations can populate various services like based on their organization needs. So I can go and select the service I want. I choose how much CPU I want, how many instance I want, memory, and then I choose the backup policy. In this case, I choose VMware Gold. That probably means that I'm backing up 4 times daily or 3 times daily, right? And I hit submit. Then the service will automatically be provisioned using the automation orchestration. So you can see that we have removed the complexity of IT operation manually configuring and deploying this service. So therefore, this service is delivered in matter of minutes, allowing business to accelerate their go-to-market and have a more optimized streamlining the IT operations as well. And then, of course, giving end user choices and operations to manage their own workload. So, for example, every time you need to do a backup, you don't need to pick up the phone and call your IT operation to take a backup your workload right before you apply a patch. So this allows them to have a full control of the services that's been delivered by the cloud model. So that's great. So we talked about building a private cloud and how we build a private cloud. But then customers are saying, I love this idea of building a private cloud, but you know what? I am going to run 5 or 10% of my workload in Azure or AWS, right? And because like Omer, you mentioned that some of the dynamic workloads are suitable to run in public cloud. So I have a test dev application, which I'm in development phase. So I just need to start creating workloads very quickly, and I'm going to be constantly changing. So it makes sense for me to go to public cloud. And our customer expectation is this: that they will build a private cloud, and then they will have integration to public cloud. But in reality, it is like this: they have a private cloud, then they have a subscription to Azure or AWS, Azure and GCP, Google Cloud. So it turns out that they end up having multiple clouds in their organization. They actually end up building a multi-cloud strategy in their organization. And based on study that was done by IDC, they're saying that any customers who is serious about cloud and who has implemented a private cloud themselves, they actually are 93% are workloads, they're running in more than 2 clouds. So by default, we're seeing this, right? And even in your organization, you will know that your organization is using Office 365, or they're using Salesforce, or they're using some other cloud service coming from Oracle, or this coming from another cloud vendors. So even if you think your organization is not consuming something from public cloud, in reality they are, right? And 93% customers are saying they are consuming services from multiple cloud providers. So is this good or bad, right? And then when we looked at this more carefully, it turns out that sometimes having multi-cloud creates a challenge sometimes. One is that management silos and operation silos. The way you manage your on-premise private cloud is going to be completely different the way you manage Microsoft Azure and the way you manage Amazon AWS. And AWS is completely different from Azure and Rackspace. So therefore, you end up having multiple management interfaces to manage your workloads. Second is the complexity to move workload, because our customers have a misconception that once they go to cloud, they'll be able to move workload back and forth. So that means I can go to Amazon, and if Amazon is more expensive or it's not meeting my SLA, I will move it to Azure, right? That's another complexity. You cannot do that, right? And furthermore, is the skills, because now over the 10, 15 years, our IT operations team was trained on technologies that we had in our own data center. And now all of a sudden we move to technology that's in public cloud. And public cloud, even though it's a cloud, you still need to have the skills to manage it. And this creates a big security risk, because a lot of the time, because you're running workload in public cloud, one small misconfiguration, you expose your data to the public, and then you end up having a data leak, right? And you see reports after reports that this company got hacked or that company got hacked, right? So even moving to public cloud and having a multi-cloud strategy sometimes pose a challenge. And one of the challenge is cloud management dilemma. So what that means is that imagine that you have a multi-cloud world, and if we look at our multiple vendors, such as Amazon, AWS, GCP, the idea is that you run this workload, and this workloads only run in over here. Sorry. Uh, then if you run this workload in AWS, it runs on. So the workload is confined to the work into the environment it's running on. So it's important that we understand the technology. So hybrid cloud means that the public cloud and on-premise cloud is using the same core technology, same virtualization technology. That means when you move workload from on-prem to off-prem, it does not require any conversion. When you have a native cloud, that means that the core technology is different. So that means Azure core technology uses Hyper-V, where AWS use KVM. So if you move workload from one cloud to another, it requires a VM conversion. And this creates a dilemma where our customers' expectation is that I want to be able to move workload here into any of the, I want to be able to move workload to Amazon, and then I want to be able to move the workload to Azure. This is not possible at the moment, right? It's difficult because the dissimilarity across technologies. So, so the second dilemma is the cloud placement. So it is recommended that if your workloads needs to be more strict in terms of security regulation, you need better availability, you need better RPO and RTO. That workload needs to be on premise. It cannot be off premise, because public cloud by default provides 3 nines availability. And by best, you can go to 4 nines availability, right? So any workload that needs better availability, needs to be more secured. It needs to be on premise. It cannot go to public cloud. So now, if we go toward the third challenge is, what do we do with that application? Do we do lift and shift? Do we take that application and purely re-platform and cloudify that application? And third is, do we write that application to be true cloud native and move it to a platform as a service, right? So what Dell Technology is doing is that, as Dell Technologies, we have a sister company called VMware, which is part of Dell Technologies, and we have Dell EMC. Initially, there was two separate independent cloud strategies that we were doing. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to accelerate by providing our customers a unified cloud strategy and deliver a unified cloud solution. And that cloud solution is known as Dell Technologies Cloud. What we're able to do with Dell Technologies Cloud, and this is where Dell Technologies is a big key player, is that we were able to convince all the public cloud providers to run a common technology built on VMware. So this allows us to build bridges across all the clouds. So this allows our customers to then provision a workload in GCP and move that workload to at the slot or do, and then move that workload to Amazon and AWS and move workload back and forth based on the business SLA and the cost associated with that, right? And furthermore, and the cloud solution, to make it easier for our customer, we're trying to deliver that as a cloud in a box, which is that is a fully integrated cloud solution available from Dell Technologies as a single vendor support. So you will get a full support for VMware and Dell Technologies, and we provide fully automated lifecycle management for cloud. That is the most important thing, because once you deploy cloud, over time you need to upgrade your cloud with new functionality, with new software releases. So we provide automated lifecycle management for that cloud. And then we can integrate with our data center technologies like Dell EMC infrastructure to deliver storage as a service, backup as a service, DR as a service, encryption as a service. And we can even integrate this cloud on-premise cloud to public cloud, and we can build a full-fledged hybrid cloud model. So what is this? This Dell Technologies Cloud delivers fully automation, provides monitoring, is fully secure, and empowers user to consume service and user portal. And then, of course, we can take this private cloud and we can extend to deliver enterprise services that is required in enterprise, right? Normally, you do not get these services in public cloud. Public cloud does not do DR as a service for your enterprise workload, right? This is one of the reasons people still deploy private cloud. So we take enterprise capabilities and we enable and deliver as a cloud service, DR as a service, backup as a service, encryption as a service, application as a service, and many others, right? And then, of course, furthermore, then once the private cloud is deployed, then we have a service catalog that is fully customized as per customers' organization and their business needs. And these services are fully delivered in terms of automation and orchestrated, right? And then, of course, we can have a unified cloud interface that can manage on-premise cloud and it can manage off-premise cloud, right? And if customer wants to have a full hybrid model, then our customers can go to cloud on, Azure running on same core technology, right? And then they can move workload back and forth if they need to do that. And of course, our objective is not to deliver only infrastructure as a service. We're delivering a common cloud solution that can do desktop as a service, infrastructure as a service, and platform and container as a service as part of one single cloud known as Dell Technologies Cloud, right? And look, automating is not easy. There's a lot of aspect of things that goes into delivering a cloud solution. Even though we are providing a engineered cloud solution, it is important that our customer transform the IT operating model. So we as Dell Technologies provide our services to ensure that our customers do it right. So we recommend our customers simply start with something small, start with the low hanging fruit, standardize your IT processes, and then start delivering it into your own IT organization, and then extend those services to your other cloud providers, right? And of course, doing IT transformation is very complex. It's about technology. It's about the what goes on that technology, the operating model, and application transformation. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? And what we're telling our customers is that either they need help. Any organization who is moving seriously toward cloud, we highly advise them to work with their consultants, any vendors like Deloitte, Accenture, even Dell EMC Consulting, and over time, we're helping our customers accelerate this into accelerate the cloud model by providing the right services and transform the IT into building a multi-cloud infrastructure strategy, helping them understand what to do with those applications, and most important is transforming their operating model from a traditional IT into a cloud operated strategy, IT service delivery model, right? So this is where I want to stop right now. I want to say thank you so much, and thank you to TRA for hosting this service. This session is truly a pleasure. I'll stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions and answer them. Thank you. So I see some questions coming up. Just so first question is from Khalifa. Can you elaborate more on encryption in transit on cloud for data? That's a very good point. So so there's two aspects of things. We have to understand one thing, that when you run workload in public cloud, by default, that data is not encrypted. The public cloud providers allows you, they ask you to subscribe to additional services to encrypt your data. So it is up to you. They just provide you a platform. Just because they're providing you platform does not mean that they will do everything for you, right? So if you run a workload, you need to back up that data. You have to subscribe to a backup service. If you need to encrypt that data, you have to subscribe to security solutions, which are available in the marketplace. But by default, it does not do that. And when you are transmitting data from Azure outside, then the recommended way of is you have to create basically endpoint transport zone. This is how your data will go from your own public cloud instance outside, right? So either you do through VPN. So before you even secure your data, you have to create a pipe to get the data out. So by default, it's not there. You as a user and your operations team have to subscribe to the right services to ensure that your data is protected. The public cloud providers do not do this by default, and there are many vendors in the market, in their marketplace, from Azure and AWS, who can help do that. So for example, in Dell EMC, we have a service cloud link that is available in Microsoft Azure, in AWS, in Rackspace, in Google Cloud, and even on premise. If you end up doing private cloud, that you can subscribe to, and that will help encrypt your data. And once the data is encrypted, then it can go over the wire, right? Second question is there any difference between cloud and blockchain? So cloud itself is the platform, the way you deliver a service, right? Blockchain is a method of you developing an application on top that is more secure. So when you develop a application on a blockchain architecture, then of course blockchain architecture is also scalable. So then how do you scale that blockchain architecture? You need a cloud capability. So blockchain runs on top of cloud, regardless of what that cloud is, right? So it's not cloud versus blockchain, it's cloud plus blockchain. I hope that answers the question. Second question again, third question also is from Khalifa, is can we apply on cloud infrastructure data loss prevention? Yes. So that's a great point. So again, any cloud provider, even on premise or off premise, they provide you platform. They themselves do not apply any security policies for you. Those policies has to be specific to your organization. So if I am a consumption of Azure and you are consuming Azure as well, you might need DLP. I don't need DLP, right? Because my data is not that critical. So then they will recommend that you subscribe to DLP technology that's available in the marketplace. So you are now paying for the subscription of Microsoft Azure, plus you're paying for a subscription of a third-party software that you're consuming from marketplace as well. So yes, by default, it's not there, but you can subscribe to services in marketplace that allows you to, build your services as per your governance organization. And again, it's important to highlight the public cloud do not provide five nines availability. If you have your own data center from past 3 decades, you have been working with vendors like Dell, HP, IBM, who are providing you infrastructure that is five nines. And if you move workload to public cloud, it's three nines available. So that means you have to then subscribe to additional technologies for data protection, for replication, and DLP to secure your data. But by default, it's not there. Yes. I hope that answers your question. I'm happy to take any further question. We still have time. Okay, so thank you so much. I really appreciate all your time, guys, everyone. It was a very fruitful session. And again, thank you to TRA for hosting this session on their platform. It's truly an honor. Thank you. Okay, so we have another question from Asad. How multi-cloud and digital transformation fit together? All right, so digital transformation is basically an approach for you to transform your organization in many layers, right? You transform in the way you develop applications, you become application focused, you transform IT, you transform your security and workspace. If you do all four of them, then you have digital transformation, right? So multi-cloud basically means that now you are, in order for you to do your IT transformation, you need to do it, you need to run your workload on premise and you need to run your workload off premise. So digital transformation right now is very much dependent on multi-cloud strategy. Because here's an example, that you have your own, you might decide to develop next version of Uber, like your own Uber application. You might develop on Azure because it's cheaper, maybe it's more cost optimized, and maybe you like Azure developer services. But when you go to production, you end up going it on premise, or you end up going to production on Etislot Cloud or Do, right? So having a multi-cloud strategy is important so you understand that different cloud providers provide different services, and you're going to find those platforms to develop your application. The digital transformation is all about moving to digital market, right? And digital market basically means applications, right? So having a multi-cloud strategy is the key, giving you the choice to run your application in any cloud. Right? So thank you guys. Thank you once again.